Hello and welcome to the DNX podcast. My name is Silvia Christman and I'm here today with Lucas Krump. The name is very German, so I had to say it a couple of times, from Everyman. Hi, welcome.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well. I'm so glad that we get to do this here today. So I've been very intrigued by Everyman for quite some time, and I'm so grateful that you made the time to be here with me today and talk to me a little bit more about what Everyman is and what you set out to do with it.
Yes, and thanks for sending us guys.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's helpful. Women are our biggest advocates and supporters, so it's certainly helpful.
Yeah. I mean, I if you want to talk about this, I've come across you guys a year ago, maybe it was that, and I noticed that there were so many men asking me for resources and information where they can go and talk to other men about the problems that they have. So I found Everyman and I started sending people to your website, and now you're here talking to me and telling me about why you started Everyman in the first place.
Absolutely, and I think I think, and I love what you said, but at the same time, one of the challenges that I have is for men, to get help or to reach out or something, there has to be a problem. And a big focus of Everyman is not just solving problems, but enabling men to create community and celebrate who they are, both the good and the bad, and find connection and experiences that help them be exactly who they are in this world. Good, bad, indifferent, the ugly and the messy and the awesome and amazing. Because really one of the core focuses of Everyman is supporting men in being their most authentic self. And so we're an organization that focuses on men's emotional well-being. We're a wellness organization with the sole sort of mission or focus is connecting men with themselves and with other men to enable them to be the best version of themselves, whatever that looks like, so that they can ultimately be better, partners, fathers, brothers, husbands, whatever it looks like for them. Why
do you think this is so important right now in this day and age?
I think it's important for a number of reasons, and one of the Everyman in just a year and a half has grown to be sort of bigger than I ever could have thought. And so I think that on one hand that speaks volumes for the organization that we've created for my partners, Dan Doty, Sasha Lewis, Owen Marcus, Aaron Blaine, like all of those guys and their commitment to building this organization. But I think it also says a lot about where men are at today and the fact that they are struggling and they're hurting in many, many ways. And in the wake of, everything that's happening in this world, related to men's relationship with women and all of the other, dynamics that are at play within, our economic world and our political world and everything else. I think to a certain degree, we tend to overlook men, and I don't say that in any way that would discredit or disqualify the needs of women or any other, group or organization, because they're all important. But men are oftentimes this group of people that are to a certain degree overlooked.
The straight white male is the unexamined gender.
Right.
They don't have to overcome adversity at the same time. They get completely ignored when it comes, and they don't have the same resources or environments to actually draw upon.
Yeah,
there's a void.
Absolutely. And I don't need to go through the studies and the statistics, but I will. I mean, the number one cause of death for middle-aged white men in North America is suicide. 55 men take their own life every single day. There's actually a minister for loneliness in the UK right now.
There is?
It's an epidemic. People are becoming more and more disconnected from themselves, and a core group of those people are men. And this is a reality. This is a problem in our society and in our world, wherever country you're in, that has to be addressed. And in many ways, that's what Everyman seeks to do. But I think we're largely helping to address this problem, even though our focus and our core is at connecting men primarily with themselves first and foremost. Because that's the most important connection. If a man doesn't have that connection with himself, and who he is and what he feels, then he's never going to be able to be vulnerable enough to connect with other men and women to create the meaningful connections that actually enrich our lives.
Why do you think it's so important for men to learn how to connect with themselves and other men first?
Because it's human.
Yeah.
I think, Everyman, we focus really on the physiology of our experience. And what I mean by that is, there's a lot of things that exist in the world related to spirituality and rites of passage and everything else for men. And I think that all of those are very important, and certain communities or certain tribes or whatever have those rituals, and they serve them very well. What we predominantly focus on is, what is your own physical experience? How do you as a man feel in your body? And when I say feel, what emotions do you actually feel? Are you joyful? Are you afraid? Are you angry? Are you sad? Those are very real emotions. As men, we spend a tremendous amount of time in our head thinking about figuring out the problem. Every time I hear the word "I think," I immediately think, oh, wow, like thinking, maybe isn't the right solution to this problem. Maybe feeling is. Maybe feeling how you actually feel and leaning in to that feeling and being able to connect with how you feel and be able to express that is what you may really need. And I think that, those feelings will oftentimes lead us in the direction that we need to be going.
I would say that as a woman in this world, I'm allowed to lead my life according to how I want to feel. It's actually the primary decision maker in my life.
Right.
I make decision based on how I want to feel in this world, what I do for a living, how I interact with people, with whom I interact, why and how. And I think for men, it's very different. Yeah,
well,
they're not given the same path. Like for me, that's an expectation where people go, okay.
Well, it's absolutely different. I mean, we as men have been told to be stoic, to be, don't cry like a girl, don't be a pussy, whatever that means. Suck it up. Like we as men have been conditioned and told that we aren't necessarily allowed to have emotions. But as a human being, we have emotions. I mean, whoever the creator of us is, gave us, a mind to think and eyes to see and hands to build, and ultimately emotions to guide us and to help us manage and regulate ourselves and our relationships and our interactions. And a core tenet, I believe, of creating the connection that we need in our lives is through emotion.
Yeah, for sure. So if somebody comes to your website and signs up, what happens next? Because I can't, so I'm curious. I want to know.
Oh, yeah. What happens next? Well, we go and run around in the woods and, do crazy stuff. No, I think that, the only reason I say that, because I think that, the notion of a men's movement or, some of the things that sort of came out of the early 90s in the United States, were to a certain degree focused on that type of experience where it was, very much getting back to our roots as men. And I think that,
what does that mean to you, going back to your roots as a man? I grew up very hippie. To me, that I don't know what that means.
Yeah, and I got to confess, I don't necessarily know what that means either.
In my world, like, men were crying and wearing skirts, so I'm sure that's not what I mean.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure that not everybody was fortunate enough to grow up, with the flower children. But I think that what that means is, like, somehow, going back to this this moment in time where we got to act out maybe the roles that we thought we were supposed to, being man as a protector and a hunter and a gatherer, and a woman as a caretaker and a nurturer, and to some degree there's a belief that we need to go back to that and have these more sort of have these more ancient experiences or expressions of who we are as a man. And I think that largely that is important. But I think when we have that expression of who we are as a man, we can't discredit the fact that part of that expression is how we feel and what our emotions are telling us. And so we don't necessarily have to go and do some of these things. But if that's what one chooses, like, please be my guest. I think from a
I hear it's very liberating.
Right. I think when a man comes to our website, I think the first thing they should do is probably be afraid and excited. And I say afraid because ultimately, stepping out of whatever space we're in and acknowledging the fact that, hey, like, I need to connect with somebody, or I need something that I don't necessarily know what I need, but I know that something inside me doesn't feel right. That's a scary space, right? And so, like, I would, the first thing that I would want to do, and unfortunately, like, I can't, reach my hand through the website and hug the man, but I just want to acknowledge that, like, the first thing that they're doing is huge. Just taking the risk of saying, hey, I am acknowledging that I need more, and I need something. I need a different type of experience. And so I think that initial fear is a good thing. Because that's our emotion telling us that, like, hey, we're yearning for something that we don't know what it is. And oftentimes when we don't know what things are, we get afraid. But being afraid is our own experience, and that's okay. Yeah. So after they get over the fear,
and maybe they get on a mailing list, do they get to join a group right away?
Yeah, I mean, Everyman is focused on a number of different initiatives. At the core of what we do, we enable men to start or join a peer-led men's group, which I think of it as, like, work out for your insides. It's like this, like, mental gymnastics that we all need. And what I mean by that is we as men have been conditioned to train for things. We go to the gym. And we work out our body. We go to school. We work out our minds, and we do other types of disciplines to practice. And a really important thing that we need to practice is practice being emotional, practice being connected to other men, practice being in community of other men, and being open, honest, real, and authentic, whatever that may look like. Because that practice is largely one that we don't partake in. And so that muscle, that emotional well-being can atrophy without practice. Yeah.
What do you think is missing in a lot of these male peer culture gatherings outside, that they're seeking for, that they're looking for within Everyman,
Authenticity.
Authenticity.
Yeah, I mean, I think authenticity is definitely something that's missing. Like the ability to actually sort of own exactly who we are and not be afraid of what the repercussions of that may look like. And so,
what do you think men are most afraid of? Like, why do they not go up to their buddies and open up?
I think men are most afraid of other men.
Why?
Because we have not been conditioned to relate to another man as a confidant, as a partner, as a supporter. Like, we've oftentimes been focused on relating to them as competition. Competition in a work environment, competition for a man or a woman that you seek their love and affection, competition, for any number of things. I think our primary interaction with men off the bat is a competitive dynamic. And then we immediately go into a space of inadequacy or judgment. But what's very interesting is the man across from you is actually thinking the exact same thing as well. So you're both sort of playing inadequate around one another and not actually connecting and being real with one another about how they feel.
Yeah. I always wondered that because, when you say something to one man, it seems that there's this assumption that all men will often say this, or have said that in my life to me, that other men are bad and I need to be afraid of them. When I look at the men in my life, I think they're all exceptionally awesome human beings, right?
Right.
But, like, from my perspective, it doesn't look like that.
Right.
I find them all vulnerable, authentic, kind. But what I have noticed is that I have very open and honest and incredible relationships with these male friends of mine. But if I put them all in one room, all of a sudden, they start talking about sports.
Right. Right.
I was like, wow.
Because that's our default, that's our default in many ways to sort of subscribe to the narrative that we think that we should be playing into. Let's talk about sports, or let's connect with another man about work and see it and see what he can do for me, versus connecting with another individual based on who he is and how he feels. And so, at Everyman, the core of what we do is we enable men to, as I mentioned before, start or join a peer-led men's group. And we, have resources and support and, curriculum and everything else to really enable men to have a community which supports them in whatever they want. Beyond that, we do what we call our open source retreat, which is it's a retreat where we bring 50 to 60 men together, and
you go chop wood in the forest.
We might, we truly.
Do you dance in a circle?
I can't give away all the secrets. Okay. There's always a little bit of dancing in some way, shape, or form, but I mean, I use that word open source very seriously, and because a big component of what Everyman is we are not an organization that has all the answers. Like, we're not an organization where there's some guru that wrote the book and is going to tell you, is going to prescribe you what he thinks that you need to find whatever it is that you're looking for. We're an organization that brings together men that have a variety of different experiences and backgrounds and opinions and whatever it is, and we create a environment that can come forward and that can live and that can be shared openly, and it can be leveraged as a tool for all men to learn from. We are very intentional in all that we do at our retreats, but intentional in that we are facilitating an experience, and we are partaking in that experience versus orchestrating an experience which has some perceived outcome that may or not be right for that man.
Interesting.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me.
And then beyond that, we do what we call men's emotional leadership training. So we teach men how to take on the skills that we demonstrate, so that they can take those skills back to their community, whether it's their men's group or whether it's their work environment or whatever it is they so choose. And so it's very important for us to, going back to that concept of open source. I don't have a patent on being a human being. Like that's not fair. So what we do is we teach and we give those resources to men so that they can use that in whatever context that is going to help them. And those men that largely partake in our leadership training are individuals that want to be stronger leaders in whatever community that is for them. And then beyond that, we do expeditions where we take anywhere from 15 to 20 men on deep outdoor wilderness experiences that connect them to nature and to themselves and to other men. Nature is an incredible healer, and it's something that we lose sight of in our fast-paced world. And so allowing men to get back to nature and to slow down is so incredible. Yeah,
I mean, amazing. Yeah, I'm fascinated by it, and I'm really grateful that you made the time to be here today. So if there was one thing, if somebody's listening to this and they say, wow, I really want to start, I'm curious, there's a place where men can talk to each other, what's the number one tip you would give them?
It's a great question. I mean, I think the number one tip I would give them would be take a risk. Take a risk and reach out. Find Everyman. There's probably an Everyman group in wherever you are. And if not, start an Everyman group. We'll help you to support you in doing that. And if it's not Everyman, have it be some other group, whatever that may be, or find some other experiences which challenge you to, go deeper within yourself. And yeah, I would say if you're afraid or if you're feeling something, that's a good indicator. And the other thing I would say is like, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Like you're definitely not alone.
Right. That's the biggest part of it. You're not alone.
Yeah.
Like we're all in this together. We're all just here to walk each other home.
Yeah. As much as we, think we're different, we're more similar than not. And, it's no coincidence that it's called Everyman. Right. We are an organization in which the values are inclusivity and openness for every man, whatever that looks like. So.
Awesome. Yeah, we're definitely going to put the link to your website.
The website. We also have the Everyman podcast as well is a good one.
For that below as well. So thank you so much for being here. For everyone listening, if you're not subscribing to our podcast yet, please do so. Leave us a review, and if you want to send in a question, we will answer those live online. Thank you so much, Lucas, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Before I leave you, I want to invite you into my world. Join us at the DNX Festival in September in Lisbon. If you go to our website and use the promo code podcast50, you get an extra €50 off your ticket. And subscribe to this channel and leave us a review if you can. We will review these frequently, and you can leave us a question that we will answer live online. Until next time.